Hello and welcome to a Very English Craft Room and another in the scrapbooking series. And for this video I'm going to show you how I scrapbooked a layout for a International Scrapbooking Day challenge on the Facebook page for the Love of Pretty Papers. And this challenge was for minimalism. They were all based on different types of art on this one. And for the minimalism challenge, they had three criteria. The first one was using washi tape to make represent straight lines or squares, to use a grid layout, and to use stamping. And so the photograph I chose for this layout was of my son paddling in the stream at Slippery Stones, which is a little bit of a stream under a bridge on a walk we go on regularly around Lady Bower Reservoir in Derbyshire. This was taken a number of years ago. My son is now coming up for 28. So here I am sorting through the washi tapes, and I'm going to select quite a few different washi tapes here. As you can see, I have quite a lot, and it is about time I used some of it up. So this was a favourite, and still is a favourite walk of ours. Sometimes we would go there just for the day, and sometimes we would camp in the area. And it's something we haven't done for a while because of COVID, but hopefully we'll get back to it soon. So I decided I would use sort of brown tones there, just to reflect the stonework of the bridge and the stones in the stream. So I'm going to cut some 5-inch squares to use on this layout. So it's going to consist of 4 5-inch squares. One of which I will cover with washi tape. That's quite a wide washi tape that's in the top left hand side there of the screen, next to the fan that's on the tabletop there, and that wide washi tape is of maps, so I'm going to use that to cover one of the squares, and that's what I'm going to mount the photograph on. So I've got a little handheld fan there. It's a USB charge fan that I got from Amazon. It's really quite a good fan. I've used it when I've travelled a lot, but I've put it on the desk there because it was a bit warm and I didn't want to put a full desk fan on, which would have blown the papers around. This, I can angle it up so it doesn't touch the papers but blows onto my face, and being a woman of a certain age, sometimes you just need a little bit of cool air. So like I was saying earlier, this is a photograph taken from an area that we go and walk quite regularly. Comment down below if there is an area or a walk that you do on a regular basis. So we are now released from some of our COVID restrictions, so we could actually go out and about and have a walk like this again. However, the weather, since we've been released into this sort of level of lockdown that we are, or released from lockdown, semi-lockdown, whatever you want to call it, but the weather has been awful. So for most of May it's been sunny in the morning and really wet and horrible in the afternoon, but for the last few days it's just actually rained on and off all day, and the temperature for the whole of May just doesn't seem to be as warm as you would normally expect it to be. However, they are predicting that we might have a little bit of a heat wave with a grand total of 24 degrees. I don't really quite class that as a heat wave, but they say we might get one of those soon, but they're not convinced it'll reach this far north in the country, so that's sort of fairly typical. So you can see here that I'm inking the edges of the squares there, even the one with the washi tape on, which actually probably will rub off anyway, and I'm just straightening again the washi tape there because it was a little bit ragged around the edges. I like to do this. It's a technique that I learnt from somebody else's videos, so again, comment down below if you've learnt something from someone's videos and it's something that you regularly use now. So the ink I'm using is Tim Holtz Distress ink in Antique Photographs, and it's one that I use regularly. I tend to use that one and a couple of the blues, and I think there's a pumice stone one as well that I use on a regular basis. So just trying to line up these squares using the T-square there. It's again one of the tools that I use quite regularly now, trying to make sure things are actually lined up correctly. So this took me quite a while to try and space them out so that it was pleasing to the eye for me, and so they were sat level with each other with the right gap in between. And then I suddenly realised that the piece of paper wasn't square, and that actually when I turned it over there was a branding strip there, which I hadn't seen because for some reason it was printed all across the branding strip on the other side. So this meant that the distressed edge that was on the edge of the paper that had been printed in there, like a faux distressed edge, I trimmed it off now, so I had to use the distress ink there just to sort of dirty the edges up and reflect how it had been originally, because this is the look that I want. So again, just using the same distress ink as I used before. This part of the walk that we went on was part of a long walk, and we would often stop there to cool off, to rest our feet and paddle if we wanted to, just to cool our feet off and to take a little bit of a break in the walk. Sometimes there was ducks there, sometimes there wasn't. Quite often there was sheep around in that area too. So you can see here I'm actually using 2 T-squares there to get it lined up both horizontally and vertically, and once I've got the first one in place it actually makes the job so much easier for the other 3, and I will only need to use 1 of the T-squares then. So just pushing down the double-sided tape there and peeling off the backing from it using that dental tool, as I always use. Let me know if there's a tool that you like to use on a regular basis and that actually you would be lost without. So this weekend we're actually allowed to meet up inside with other people to open clubs and things again, so we're actually going back to our scrapbooking club, or crop as you want to call it. So we haven't done this in quite a long time. We did do one in between lockdowns last year, and we had the tables spread around the room so that we weren't actually close to each other, wore our masks, and I'm assuming we're going to be much the same this time. But it's good, I'm going to look forward to that, and I've actually prepared, I think, 16 pages, 16 layouts to take with me. Now I know I won't get through anywhere near as many as that, but it's nice to have too many to do rather than to be sat there thinking, oh, I've finished and got nothing else to do. So, and it also gives me a bit of choice. So let me know in the comment section if you joining crops or scrapbooking clubs or scrapbooking groups with other people, and whether you prepare stuff ahead of time. It's been really different to have to do that again, because you get so used to just sitting in your craft room and having everything to hand and not really having to think about preparing things too far in advance. So it took me most of last Saturday to sort out the bits ready for next week. Now you can see I'm starting to put down various different strips of washi tape. Some of them are actually countryside scenes on the tape, which I thought was quite fitting, and some are just browns and greens, and the one that I will use to delineate the grid system there is actually a very thin one that's got arrows on it, so you'll see that in a little while. But first of all, I'm just popping down the various green ones and brown ones that I'd pulled out. So one there that looks like it's holding down the photographs, and then there's one with flowers on, and so one with like a hill scene on it. So now you can see I'm popping down the tape that's got little tiny arrows on it. So I didn't actually use a ruler when sticking this down, just sort of popped it down by eye and didn't cut the tape to length, just tore it to give a nice rough edge. The beauty of washi tape is you can put it down, take it back up and do that multiple times, and it doesn't tear your paper. The only problem I find with washi tape is sometimes it doesn't stay put for very long. You have to kind of really put it down hard for it to stick properly, and I've often had to go back and sort of rub it back down, or occasionally even put a little bit of glue on it just to help it stay. So nearly finished with the washi tape there. I've got one more line to do, and then we'll be starting to look at a few embellishments. So I used a number of journaling cards on this one, and a few other embellishments. So I'm using a bit of that tape with the arrows just to add to the squares there where I'd put some of the other tape. So I think I'm nearly done with the washi tape. I think I'm fiddling around there actually trying to think, do I need some more, do I not? And then decide now I'm going to tidy them up. So just sorting now through some of the little stickers I've got with words and phrases on them, and then I shall sort through some embellishments as well. So just pulling them out what I think I might use, and then I will have a better play with them in a minute and line them up. So I've got that little card there that says Go Boldly, which is what I've used as kind of a title. There's one that says Grade Outdoors, and then there'll be another one that I use on the bottom right hand side in a minute, but you can see I'm sorting through quite a lot there. I've got quite a lot, and I seem to need to buy more and more on a regular basis for some reason. So now I've narrowed the embellishments and little cards there down to a kind of short list. I'm now having a little play around and decide what I want to put where. So this journaling card was a little bit bigger than I wanted it to be, and it had got rounded corners. I wanted it to be the same size as that other little card there that came in an embellishment pack, an ephemera pack, should I say. So I was just trimming down that journaling card to match it. And what I will do is use the little stripy bit that I cut off elsewhere in the layout. So just trimming it down, and you can see I'm actually going to pop it back onto that card, but having trimmed it to fit and cut away the curved edges. So just using some double-sided tape to adhere that. So a good thing to learn is not to feel too precious about any of your embellishments, and if you have to cut them and trim them, do so. I sometimes cut mine in half, particularly if I'm going to hide part of it behind another layer. That means I can save the other half for another layout or use it elsewhere in that same layout to give some uniformity. So you can see I've kind of put the card back together as it was, but smaller, because I did like that little stripy bit on there. So I've got a little washi arrow there. It's like a washi sticker of an arrow. So I'm going to sort of consider using that, and the same with that little green butterfly, just because it reflects the colours that I'm using. However, I do actually use another set of words in that bottom right hand corner, so I can't remember if I use that butterfly or not. So as I was fairly set on those two cards in those two opposite squares, diagonally opposite squares, I'm going to stick those down. And I'd picked out a few word stickers there and phrase stickers that I wanted to use. And just having a fiddle to decide which ones I want where, and indeed if I'm going to use them. I also found this sticker that was some bunting. For some reason it didn't stick down particularly well, and I've had to actually go back later and stick it down with the bits of glue here and there. I don't know if I'd handled it too much or got a bit of grease on the back of it for some reason, or it just didn't like sticking on some of those layers. And indeed it could actually be because it was over the top of washi tape, and with that being waxy, things don't always stick particularly well. So umming and ahhing over different embellishments and things, trying to decide which ones to use, which ones I'm not going to use. When I first got some of these sheets, I was very precious about using them, well, rather not using them and keeping them, but I've learnt recently that really you buy them to use, so use them you should. So when sorting through some of those embellishments and phrases, I found that little bit that said, "Let's go somewhere fun." And paddling there at Slippery Stones was always fun. So it seemed like the perfect little card to finish off that little corner there. So just trying to decide whether it needs more or not. Sometimes more is less, sometimes less is more, and sometimes more is more. So I found another little bit of bunting there that I wanted to use, and so I'm just trying to decide whether it needs to go in the top or the bottom corner there. or indeed whether I was going to use it at all. So you can see now I've added the journaling in that little journaling box, and I did go back in because I'd forgotten about the stamping and stamped in some signposts on it. That finished off the challenge. I've really enjoyed doing these challenges for International Scrapbooking Day and for the other challenges that they do throughout the year. If you'd like signposting to these, comment down below and I will do that for you. So now that that's finished, I'd like to thank you for joining me in a very English craft room, and ask that if you have enjoyed this video that you click on the like and subscribe buttons so that you will get notified when I put another video onto the channel, and hope that one day, very soon, I will see you once again in a very English craft room.